Okay, all right, good evening. I'm going to call to order the city council meeting for July 8th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Joyner,
Present.
Councilmember Adler,
Here.
Councilmember Rubio,
Here.
Vice Mayor Veros,
Here.
Mayor Armstrong.
Here. Okay, at this time, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Rion Parek from Troop 2001. They meet over at Iron Horse Middle School. Please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please place your right hand over your hearts. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please be seated, and thank you, Rion, for that. All right, next item, please.
Item 3, announcements. Item 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. There are none. 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city council or the city clerk, excuse me. Item 4, public comment.
Okay. At this time, public comment is open. The public is permitted to address the city council on any non-agenda item related to the business of the city council. Also on items that are on the consent calendar, including requests to pull an item from the consent calendar and the reason why you wish to pull the item or items. Please note that the decision to remove the item from the consent calendar is strictly at the discretion of the city council. You may speak on requests for future agenda items and also on special presentation items under Section 6 of tonight's agenda. And we have one item there. You also may speak on items that are not on the agenda, but are within the city council's jurisdiction. Please be reminded that while the city ensures the First Amendment rights of its citizens, we do not accept nor endorse any offensive or hateful comments made during our meetings. The city celebrates the diversity of our community, and we strive to be a welcoming and open community for all. If you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please fill out a speaker card located in the back of the room and submit it to the city clerk. And while we encourage your comments, unfortunately, state law prevents the city council from discussing items that are not on the meeting agenda. City council does take them very seriously, however, and if appropriate, staff will follow up. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, we have 2 speaker cards. The first one is from Satya Ganeshan.
Okay. Please. You've got 3 minutes for your comments, please.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Satya Ganesan, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Open Governance. And we're a nonprofit built to make governments transparent and accessible to everybody. Civic engagement shouldn't require decoding PDFs, digging through minutes, or sitting through hours of meeting recordings. And the average resident cares deeply about their city, but they don't always have time to stay involved in their community. That's where open governance comes in. In a typical city council meeting, for example, residents often raise important concerns, but if you're not there in person, or if you're unable to sit through the entire session, you might miss the full picture. And this often results in you not being fully informed about what happened in the city council meetings. With open governance's meeting summaries, key points, and speakers, they're all clearly accessible to everybody with just a click of a button. And that's how it can impact our community and get our citizens involved. We've already started organizing city meetings from the Tri-Valley cities and are working to cover more, but it takes people, time, and technology. And being a small, committed team, keeping this free and accessible is going to be very, very easy, but we need your support for keeping this going, and that's why we're inviting people from San Ramon to participate, engage, and donate to this mission. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next speaker, please.
Shirag Kathrani.
All right, Shirag.
Hello, everyone. So thanks, Satya, for the presentation. It was a great presentation. I want to bring to the notice previously about the public comment via Zoom, like public participation via Zoom, and it has been over and over. Like last week, four meetings ago, we had spoken about it. There are few community members who spoke about it, and Council Member Junet had said like there will be a staff report on that, but we have yet to see that staff report. And I would like to bring public participation via Zoom, because it's very hard for students like Satya and all to come and be in these meetings, especially when the schools are going on, as well as senior citizens of our city who have really hard time to be in this meeting at times. So I would request city bring that in as a agenda item as soon as possible, so everybody can participate and speak up. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Any other speaker cards?
There are no more public comments.
Okay, no more public comments, so I will close public comment and we will move on to the next item, which is our consent calendar. I heard no requests from the public to pull an item. Does any council member wish to pull any consent item?
I move the consent calendar.
Okay, motion Vice Mayor Veros.
I will second that.
Okay, second by Councilmember Rubio. Okay. Okay, the motion passes 5-0, so we will move on to item 6 tonight, special presentation. We have a proclamation declaring July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month and Parks Make Life Better Month. Presentation to Adam Chow, Recreation Supervisor, and Recreation Coordinators Andrew Mendez and Reed Thomas. Oh, go ahead. I want you guys to come on up. All right, good to see you guys. All right, so I have here a proclamation of the City Council of the City of San Ramon declaring July 25th, July 2025 as Parks and Recreation Month and Parks Make Life Better Month. Whereas access to local parks, recreation areas, trails, open space, and facilities is vital to the health, wellness, and positive development of all San Ramon residents. And whereas Parks and Recreation promotes physical, emotional, and mental well-being through both organized and self-directed activities, such as fitness programs, play, and recreation. And whereas Parks and Recreation contributes to economic vitality by partnering with businesses and nonprofits and hosting events that engage and support the local community. And whereas memorable experiences are created through diverse programming, such as youth sports, teen and senior activities, adult enrichment classes, and free community events. And whereas Parks and Recreation fosters social cohesion by celebrating diversity, modeling compassion, promoting equity, and providing inclusive, welcoming spaces for all. And whereas these services support human development across all ages and abilities, offering lifelong learning and personal growth opportunities in physical, intellectual, and social domains. And whereas Parks and Recreation help preserve community identity and the environment by honoring local heritage and culture and by stewarding natural resources and green spaces. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon proclaims July 2025 as Park and Recreation Month and Parks Make Life Better Month, recognizing the essential role of Parks and Recreation in enhancing community life and resilience. All right, who am I going to present this to? All of you. All right, Adam, there you go. Here, let's get a picture, get you all in here. Okay. Go. All right, you got something you want to say?
I got a few words for us today.
All right, all of you get to speak, 5 minutes each.
5 minutes each. That's what I was told. So hold on to your hats for this one. We represent the Parks and Community Services Departments. We are professionals here. And we really want to thank the City Council for recognizing Park and Recreation Month. In addition to what we do in the Parks and Community Services Department, we also have the Public Works and Public Services Departments who do a significant job of make sure that they maintain our facilities, our parks. And I know that our parks are one of our jewels of our city. We all enjoy our parks. So we have a park for everybody within the city. They have a 15-minute walk to get with it to a park. And so we all appreciate that. We all enjoy the parks facilities that we have. Our team here from the Parks and Community Services Department, we're very proud to be able to offer the programs and opportunities for our community, whether that is the 4th of July run that you may have gone to this last week or the 4th of July concert that we have. Andrew runs a number of different summer camps that we have going on right now, and Rhiannon does the arts programs. So we all run a number of different things to be able to help our community be proud of who we are and what we do. In addition to our day jobs in supporting Parks and Recreation, we're also members of the California Park and Recreation Society, and they're supporting Park and Recreation Month, and they also have a campaign called Parks Make Life Better. And really, with the understanding that Parks and Recreation really has a key and vital role in our community. It really creates the heart and the life of what it is that we do and how we live within our community. If we didn't have parks, if we didn't have programs, if we didn't have special events, the city would really be lifeless. And so we really are proud to be able to provide those opportunities, provide the life in the city, provide the heart to the city. I know that we're very proud to work here and be very proud to be able to represent our staff in services that we offer for our community, because we know that the benefits that we offer in Parks and Recreation are really important for everybody. With the Park and Recreation Month, what we do is we recommend that our community comes out and participate in the different events that we have. We have our first summer concert coming up on Sunday evening. We have summer concerts, 4 of them throughout this month. We have one on Sunday, and then we have a Friday, and then we have a couple more Sundays, 7 o'clock at the amphitheater. Come out, enjoy it. If you want to get involved in our Parks and Community Services Department and programs that we offer, we also have volunteering opportunities as well. You can volunteer at our Parks like Make Life Better Day, where you can be able to help make a park better at Cayuga Crossings coming up on July 19th. You can also participate as a volunteer at Forest Home Farms or our senior center. So we have a lot of different opportunities for you to get involved, give back to our community, and participate in the things that we do. With that, we say thank you to the City Council for recognizing Parks Make Life Better Month and Parks and Rec Month, and I do have some gifts as a parting. So we have some pins that I'm wearing right here, Parks Make Life Better, and we truly believe that this is a slogan from the California Park and Recreation Society that parks do make life better, whether it's our parks, our facilities, or the programs that we offer. We really believe in this statement, and we really encourage people to live it out. So thank you so much.
All right, and Adam, before you and Andrew step down, let's see if the council has any comments for you. Who would like to start us off? Anyone?
I can start off.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Adam, for presenting your speech on this Parks and Community Services in San Ramon. One of the best thing in San Ramon that brings our quality of life to the next level is our parks and community services programs. So you have been doing a wonderful job. Thanks for all your great work, and thanks to all our parks commissioners, parks and community services commissioners, for being there and making sure they're addressing our community requirements, especially as our demographics are changing. We are continuously keep adapting to it and bringing new sports, bringing new cultural programs, whether it is our concert programs, all those we are continuously keep evolving, adapting to the requirements of our residents. So thanks a lot. Also, one more, this year especially is going to be special because we are going to bring our minor league cricket into San Ramon. San Ramon Grizzlies team is coming up. So in California, there are 3 teams. One of them is going to be first city sponsored and SRCA work together and bringing them to our city so that our cricket community can enjoy that. So thanks for all the great work for keeping our quality of life in a good shape.
All right. Who else? Anyone else? That's all.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for the great work you've been doing. I mean, as Vice Mayor Burrows mentioned, one of the main reasons we've all chose to live in San Ramon is are, you know, the parks and recreation services that you are providing. It is that quality of life that was so recently, as you know, recognized as top in the nation. And that is nothing to be, I mean, that is a huge lift and says a lot about the hard work that all of you are doing. And I know I've sat in meetings with Adam and some of these and what you guys are working in, and you really are working hard. Some of these meetings are 4 hours long, and you're going through every single thing, making sure that these things, that everything works out as planned and that everything presents itself the way you envisioned it. And a lot of heart goes into it, and it shows. And we are just incredibly grateful to all of you for your dedication and your time to the work that you do. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Richard?
Yeah, I just, everything you said just hit the mark. You know, you talk about social cohesion. I mean, what a great way to build a community when you're participating in sports and you got maybe different cultures, and they're all together on the field, and they're participating and learning sportsmanship. And that is really, I mean, parks are the heartbeat, I think, of our city. And whenever I meet people at the park, I'm just glad that I can, you know, share a moment together in this beautiful city that we live in, especially this time of year. The music concert that we had this weekend, it was just a beautiful day, and you just felt proud to be a citizen of San Ramon. So thanks very much, because I know all the things we talk about and rave about don't happen in a vacuum. It's because of staff. You guys work hard, and it shows, and you really bring out the best in our city. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Schweinert.
No, congratulations, guys. Adam, you said it was black magic that kept the parks clean. That's not true, is it? It's a lot of work. Huh? Okay. Well, as a citizen, thank you so much. As a person who frequents the parks a lot, I really love it, and very clean and safe. And so for my kids, and thank you so much, guys. It really means a lot. Congratulations.
Yeah, my colleagues have said it all. Thank you very much. And please pass on our thanks to the rest of the staff for all the great work that they do to support our citizens, young and old alike, and every different group that's out there. You guys do so much. So thanks so much. Thank you. Let's give him another hand. All right, next item, please.
Next item is number 7, deferred consent items. There are none. Item 8, unfinished business. There is none. Item 9, new business. Item 9.1, East Bay Municipal Utility District Annual Update. We have an introduction by Brian Bornstein and a presentation by Luz Gomez.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Brian. Good to see you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We have part 2 tonight. Last meeting, as you recall, we had DSRSD. Now we have East Bay Mud with 2 water suppliers for the city, so you get to learn all about them. Next year, we may combine them so you can talk all at the same time and interact with the whole, so that might be effective. We had them split, but there's an idea we can bring them both. Anyway, East Bay Mud, just so you're aware, is about 2/3 of the water in San Ramon, mostly all San Ramon outside of Doherty Valley, except for Gale 1. Let's see. And then Luz Gomez, the director, and Joe Volker, Community Affairs, are here and will be presenting more to you. Luz was elected to Ward 2 on November 5th last year. She is a local resident and has been involved in local, I believe, the San Ramon Library Advisory Committee, San Ramon Rotary. And I do also appreciate she's brought some of the briefings to San Ramon, which has been nice. In the past, we've had to go to Walnut Creek or Lafayette, and she's brought a couple of them here to the community center, and then I believe a few months back to the Roundhouse. So it's been nice, easier, more convenient for us and residents. But with that, I will turn it over to them, and I need to just get this computer on here. I'm having trouble getting the PowerPoint going here. Oh, here we go. Oops, did I already speed ahead? Dun, dun. Aha, there we
All
go.
right.
Starting from.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Brian.
Great.
Luz, you're on.
Thank you, Brian, and good evening, Mayor Armstrong, council members, staff, and community. It is such a pleasure to be here tonight. It's like a coming home. I've lived in San Ramon since 1980, and I've really enjoyed being a resident who is involved and active in the community. And it's such a pleasure to represent you all, or at least most of you, on the East Bay Mud Board of Directors. So at first I was going to talk a little bit about myself, but I think Brian did a decent job of introducing me. The only things that I would add is that I come with a passion for public health and for the environment. I worked for Contra Costa Public Health for over 20 years. I also worked at the Air District. I managed a lead poisoning prevention program. I worked for one of our county supervisors. I was his chief of staff. And now I get to put all of that experience and in representing Ward 2. So what is Ward 2? Ward 2 covers what I like to call the 680 corridor through parts of 24. So we do from San Ramon, Alamo, Danville, Diablo, Blackhawk, part of Rossmore and Walnut Creek, part of Pleasant Hill, and all of Lafayette. And it's approximately 220,000 residents that live in Ward 2. So who is East Bay Mud? One of the joys of serving in a public utility board is that East Bay Mud is not for profit, and we are not subject to catering to investors. Every penny that you all and we all pay for water is reinvested into the system, and it goes to delivering the water that we all enjoy. We're governed by 7-member board of directors, so there are 7 wards, and we serve approximately 1.4 million people in the East Bay, including good portion of Alameda County and, of course, portion of Contra Costa County. So one of the things that we like to talk about is, of course, where does our water come from? We are so blessed because we have what's called the Mokelumne River watershed. Our water is fairly pristine, as you can imagine, because it's mostly snow melt. It's water that gets collected into the Pardee Reservoir. And we also have Comanche Reservoir right after the dam. And then we have a pipeline that goes 90 miles all the way down to Walnut Creek. From there, the water gets treated at various facilities. We have 6 different treatment plants throughout our service area, and then it gets delivered to our 1.4 million customers. We also have, for context, 90% of our water comes from this watershed. When there's a drought, we tap into the Sacramento River Basin through the Freeport facility, which is something we invested in over a number of years ago that allows us to tap that water and deliver it to our customers. And about 10% of the water is from local runoff that gets collected in our local reservoirs. And here you get to see more specifically, for those of us who live in Ward 2, we don't really realize that East Bay Mud also has a whole other side to our operation, which is wastewater management. So for folks who live west of the hills, we do their wastewater management. Here we do Central Sanitary District manages our wastewater. But it's often eye-popping for people to realize that we have 4,200 miles of pipe. That's enough pipe to go to Chicago and back. And we have a whole bunch of pressure zones because of our geography that makes it particularly challenging to deliver water. We have a series of pumps that are just in the right place to make sure that water gets delivered with the right pressure to all the homes. We also have what's called like local reservoirs or giant tanks where we store water. We have 164 of those. And for the wastewater side, we serve 740,000 residents. So here in San Ramon, this map basically shows you all of the facilities that we operate. And I will point specifically to the purple lines. Those purple lines represent Purple Pipe. And how many of you know what purple pipe carries inside? Recycled water. Exactly. So we're very proud that in the San Ramon Valley, we have quite a bit of recycled water facilities that we coordinate the efforts for that recycled water with something called DSRSD and DERWA. DERWA is a joint effort between DSRSD and East Bay Mud. And last time you heard from DSRSD, today you're hearing from East Bay Mud, but we work together on that board. I sit on that board of directors. And we basically coordinate and manage that recycled water effort, which is a joint effort. As one thing that I recently learned that's interesting for us to know here in San Ramon, we're higher than Walnut Creek in terms of elevation. And so most of the water that comes to us actually needs to be pumped to get here. So it actually costs more money to pump the water to us. So the recycled water deliveries began back in 2006. And now we serve parks and medians, golf courses, schools, businesses across San Ramon, Danville, Dublin, and Pleasanton. And I'm happy to hear that DSRSD was here recently. So how are we doing regarding water capacity and storage at this time this year? We are very happy to say that we're doing quite well. As you see on this slide, our Pardee Reservoir is at 98% of average and at 88% of capacity. Comanche is at 112% of average and 81% of capacity. And for the entire East Bay, we're at 98% of average and 91% of capacity. What this means is that we anticipate that by the time all of the runoff from the snow melt comes into our facilities, by the end of our water year, which is September 30th, we expect to be nearly full, which is a really good place to begin for the following water year. And as we all know, things can change quickly. And we know the next drought is around the corner. So for now, we're in a really good place and it's a solid foundation. So this is good news, but we are facing some challenges as an agency. Of course, we've been around for over 100 years. We celebrated our 100th year in 2023. And some of the infrastructure that we inherited from private water companies before we became East Bay Mud is well over 100 years old. So that infrastructure is at or nearing the end of its life. And we are doing a lot of investment to keep up with the need for infrastructure. Of course, we have issues regarding water quality. There are regulations that are constantly changing. And we need to make sure we get enough water in those years when we have droughts. And then climate change, believe it or not, is already impacting our water quality. And I'll explain a little bit more about how that's happening. And as the city, we as an agency also experience a lot of increasing costs. There's cost of labor and materials and everything else. So with regards to our aging infrastructure and ensuring good water quality, just today, this morning at the board meeting, we got an update on our pipeline replacement project. You know, those 4,200 miles of pipe that I mentioned earlier, about 15 to 20 of those miles fail every year and need to be replaced. And on top of that, we're trying to pinpoint the ones that are likely to fail and replace those. So this past year, we were able to replace 25.5 miles of pipe, which is a huge improvement over what we had been doing previously. So we've really stepped up our ability to replace our pipeline. We're also using a material called ductile iron, which is more resilient to earthquakes, and it's supposed to last way more than 100 years. So while it's more expensive, it's also a really good investment on our infrastructure. Ductile iron. Yeah. So one thing that I also learned, and it was a little eye-popping, is how much it costs to replace 1 mile of pipeline in our system. And we're looking at about $4 million per mile. It's expensive. So that's part of my reason for being on the board, is that I want to make sure that we're becoming as efficient as possible with our pipeline replacement so that we can bring down those costs and not anticipate that they would continue to increase the way they have been increasing in the last 4 years.
So what makes it so expensive? Is service or?
So the pipeline itself, in the past 4 years, we have, now that we've gone to this ductile iron pipe, it's significantly more expensive than PVC, which is what we had been using before, or one of the types that we had been using before. Also, our labor costs. We've been having to rent equipment because it's a little more affordable than buying it, but even renting it has become more expensive too.
Oh.
So yeah, it's a constellation of things have conspired to make it expensive to replace just 1 mile of pipe.
I was thinking we should get 3D printer and start printing all that pipe.
Start. All right. But we've become very innovative in how we do our infrastructure improvements so that we're getting multiple benefits. Like in this slide, there used to be a very large tank that was creating problems with the water quality, because when you store water for long periods of time that you're not using, the water quality degrades. And so we really are right-sizing our storage units in order to not have the water degrade. But in this example, you see solar panels on top. So those solar panels are helping to offset the electricity needed to run some of our facilities. We also recently received a fantastic update on these 3 major infrastructure projects. I don't know how many of you have driven on San Pablo Dam Road through Orinda, but on the right-hand side, it's kind of hidden from view, but it's the Orinda Water Treatment Plant. There's a gigantic project going on right there. I don't have actual photos of the project, but it's awe-inspiring. This is one of those like once in a generation or two kind of projects that are underway right now in 3 of our main water treatment plants, the Orinda one, the Upper San Leandro one, and the Sobrante one. And in the works, in the planning phase, we have another big improvement coming to the Walnut Creek Water Treatment Plant, which is where we get our water in San Ramon. So you're wondering perhaps, so how are we doing with regards to our future water supply? Given everything that I've told you about climate change and droughts, how are we securing the water for the future, for our future? So as I mentioned earlier, the McColney River is where we get 90% of our water, but it's increasingly impacted by climate change, drought, and shifting snowpack patterns. So to protect against these risks, we are expanding our portfolio through recycled water, groundwater banking, conservation, and partnerships like Freeport, which is where I shared with you that we can tap into the Sacramento River. So our goal is to ensure that the long-term water reliability, no matter what future conditions might be. This is basically kind of saying the same thing. And this slide, we basically have what's called a water portfolio. And in it, we are expecting to have to conserve more water. By 2050, we're expected to conserve an additional 70 million gallons a day of water. For recycled water, we need to go up to 20 million gallons a day of recycled water. I believe right now we're at about 8 or 9 million. For the Central Valley Project and Freeport, which is at the top, we have agreements with folks from the Central Valley Project to purchase water during dry years. We also have water transfers, which is a similar thing where we can purchase water from others who have excess water. And we have an exciting groundwater storage pilot project that completed recently, where during heavy rains, we're able to store some water underground, and during drought years, we would be able to pull it out. And that pilot project went well, and we're hoping to be able to expand that. And then we have, when there's a drought, I'm sure we all have experienced having to cut back our own use of water. And we are able to tell our customers, look, we're never going to ask you to cut more than 15% of the water that you use. And then recycled water as well. So I mentioned, we want to go up to 20%, but think of a future where we may need to do what's called purified water or pure water, where wastewater becomes potable water, either directly or indirectly. And that's something that we're starting to think about for a future where we have more frequent droughts and less water available, less snowpack, for example. So with climate change, it's already impacting our water quality. One of the things that we've seen happen is that there are algae blooms, and those algae blooms change the taste and color of the water. And some of our water treatment plants are not built to handle that. And I don't know if you remember a few years ago during the last drought, I could taste the difference in our water because there was an algae bloom that had happened that summer. And so we're making improvements to try to adapt to such things. Also, we know that there are more potential wildfires up country and even in our local reservoirs. And when that happens, we would expect that there would be more turbidity in the water, and our water treatment plants would need to work overtime to try to produce enough clean water. It's definitely impacting us already. So we're meeting the challenge by upgrading our treatment plants, and that way we're going to be able to treat different quality water that we receive. And the water treatment project in Walnut Creek is one of the ones where we're going to be increasing the filtration, adding ozone treatment, and adding something called flocculation. And that will allow the water to come out tasting better and looking better and safer for all of us to drink. I'm also proud to say that we were one of the first water agencies to develop a climate action plan. And our most recent one was in 2024, where we basically reviewed the science on how climate change is affecting us. And we identify mitigation actions that we can take for greenhouse gas reductions. And we describe adaptation plans, ensuring that we're resilient in the face of climate change. One of the things that we're also very proud of is we're, if not the first, one of the first water agencies that have come out with a goal of achieving carbon neutrality by 2030, and that's just in 5 years. So some of the low-hanging fruit for decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions we've already tapped, and the next 5 years are going to be more challenging to get to that carbon neutrality place by 2030. But we're very proud that we begin our second century of service with these comprehensive strategies to guide us and help us tackle those emerging challenges. For example, we're tripling our solar energy production capacity with 3 new photovoltaic installations. The largest, just below Briones Reservoir in Orinda, will generate approximately 10 million kilowatt hours of clean renewable energy per year, offsetting nearly 11% of the district's total electric load. And the project will also provide $24 million in energy cost savings over the 25-year contract of the project. We have a really exciting, I think, an innovative pilot project underway in Piedmont, where we are generating renewable electricity from drinking water moving through our distribution pipelines. So it uses microturbines, and this system captures the excess water pressure, and it is expected to generate an estimated 130,000 kilowatt hours annually. And if successful, the project will generate clean power for years to come. I could, if this indeed turns out to be as successful and cost effective, I could imagine using it in many other of our facilities and generating energy just by delivering water, because most of our water is delivered by gravity. So we're also part of a very exciting hydrogen fuel station project at the Port of Oakland. This is a project where there will be the largest commercial deployment of Class 8 fuel cell electric trucks, meaning it's a hydrogen fueling station, and we're leasing the property to the Port of Oakland. So projects like these allow us to invest in a sustainable future, and it's the right thing to do for our customers, for our planet, and for generations to come. Since climate change is already here, we also need to have adaptation strategies. And as I talked earlier, we have a diversified portfolio for our water. We've been doing a lot of upgrades to our water treatment system. We're planning for sea level rise. And we're reducing the nutrient discharge from our main wastewater treatment plant in Oakland, in West Oakland. Because as you can imagine, there's a lot of water that goes back into the bay and it has nutrients in it. And there's a new regulation that makes it that we have to decrease the amount of nutrients that we release. And of course, we're supporting a lot of wildlife on our watersheds and in the Mokelumne River. This is a cute photo, but one of the things that we get to do is that we, how I like to say it is that environmental stewardship is in our DNA. And we protect open space and wildlife to manage watersheds and lands responsibly. And goats like this one, they're part of our fire fuel reduction strategy, helping to maintain defensible space while preserving habitat. We also safeguard water quality for the entire Bay Delta ecosystem by managing upstream flows, monitoring pollutants, and investing in green infrastructure. So you might remember from that map that showed the watershed and then the blue pipe coming down to the Bay Area. So that this watershed protection is a key thing that we're investing in. We're doing rangeland management, we're doing restoration, and we're doing fuels reduction. In the Upper Mokelumne River area, there's a partnership called UMRA, Upper Mokelumne River Water Authority. It's a couple of Calaveras and Amador County plus water agencies at the table planning for how do we prevent a wildfire up in where the source of our water comes from, right? If there is a wildfire in our watershed and it is a strong wildfire that kills everything in the soil, that could put our water at risk significantly, especially after a rain. Some of this soil would end up being washed down. Anyway, this is one of the things that has kept me up at night sometimes thinking about what would happen if indeed there is a wildfire. So we're doing so much to try to prevent that and to try to prevent the intensity of a fire that might come. Because even if you can reduce the intensity of the fire, you're going to be ahead of the game. So one of the successes that you guys might have heard about is that we've been doing a lot of restoration work on the Mokelumne River. And this means that we've had the best salmon runs that we've ever seen since we started counting in the last 2 years. This past year, we saw over 35,000 salmon return to the Mokelumne. And on these graphs, you see the orange sections is when we've experienced droughts. And then there are, several things have happened in order to make this success story a reality, including decades of investment in making sure that the watershed has the right temperature and the right formations of rocks and everything in order for the fish to be able to spawn and to come to our fishery. By the way, I'll put a plug for a fishery visit. If you want to see salmon returning to a river and seeing them like run and come up the fish ladders, our facility in Clements, California, which is like a couple hours from here, it's open to the public from 8 to 3:30. I would encourage you to come and visit it. The best time to come would probably be October, November timeframe when the fish are really coming back. So I hope you guys have a chance to make it there. Now we're going to switch topics a little bit and talk about wildfire preparedness. So, wildfire is top of mind across California right now, especially following the devastating fires earlier this year. So even though it occurred hundreds of miles away, it sparked statewide concern about water supply, security, and fuel management. East Bay Mud continues to proactively manage vegetation, maintain defensible space around our facilities, and partner with local fire agencies to reduce wildfire risk on our watershed lands. These efforts are critical not just for protecting our infrastructure, but also for preserving water quality and community safety throughout our service area. So since the 1991 East Bay Hills fire, I don't know how many of you were around this area at the time, but you can remember how devastating this was. East Bay Mud learned a lot from that experience. We had operational changes, like we now fill all of our storage facilities whenever there's a red flag warning, so our tanks are filled to the brim. We have changed our equipment so that it's standardized. The water hydrants are standardized. Various fire departments can access our water hydrants. We have installed pipeline upgrades and stationary generators in certain key locations. And we've definitely increased our coordination with all of our various fire agencies, having regular coordination meetings. Now, that said, there's no municipal water system that is designed to handle a wildfire just by water hydrants alone. So it is designed to handle like a few houses at a time. But what's lucky for us is that we do have local reservoirs, and fire agencies know that they could, with a helicopter, for example, come and just get water out of a reservoir as needed to go bring it wherever the fire might be happening in the East Bay. So a lot of what we focus on is prevention, and we do fuel management. They extend across the East Bay and the Mokelumne watershed with strategies tailored to local conditions and risks. Here you see the San Pablo Pine Tree Removal Project, which is a key initiative combining mechanical thinning, native oak regeneration, and pile burning to reduce fire hazards. Paired with our grazing program, these efforts reduce fuel loads and improve ecosystem health and protect nearby communities and critical water infrastructure. Earlier, we talked about fuel breaks, and here you see an example of a project that was in collaboration with East Bay Regional Park District and UC Berkeley to reduce fuel loads along this road. And you can see the dramatic difference between the left and the right. This image is of what we affectionately call the fishbowl, otherwise known as our East Bay Mud Control Center. It operates 24/7, and it coordinates with fire agencies and manage all of our water reservoir levels. Our local water storage also plays a key role in supporting aerial firefighting, which is what I mentioned a little bit ago. Now, I know that some folks have had questions about our fire hydrants, and we maintain more than 30,000 fire hydrants throughout our service area. Right now, only about 31 of those are out of service. And if a hydrant happens to be out of service, it's covered with a black tag, and all fire agencies know this. And we inspect and test approximately 800 hydrants every year as part of our routine maintenance to ensure reliability and responsiveness. Now, according to our general manager, in the history of East Bay Mud, there hasn't been a fire hydrant that has stopped working as it's supposed to when it's needed. So next, we're going to talk about, considering everything that I've shared with you and the risks and the challenges that we're facing. All of this requires also managing rising costs. So we continue to invest in our infrastructure while trying to manage our cost pressures from inflation, construction materials, and regulatory requirements. We maintain long-term financial stability. In fact, we're AAA rated, and we're one of few water agencies that has such a high rating through a mix of modest rate increases, debt financing, and operational efficiencies. But even with these challenges, the average cost of water remains. See if anybody can guess. How much do you think the average gallon of water costs in the East Bay Mud region? Any guess? How much would you pay for a gallon of water if you knew it had all of this infrastructure behind it, right, before it gets to you? Well, so the average cost is actually under 2 cents per gallon, which we consider that to be still a really good value for what we deliver. So this is kind of a summary slide of all the things that we're doing to invest in our reliability, from aging infrastructure to water quality to climate change and fiscal responsibility. And how we spend or invest your rate dollars. Basically, a little over half of the rate dollar goes for infrastructure improvements, about a quarter go for water service, 7 cents go for administration and customer service, 6% for natural resource management and regulatory compliance, and 5 cents for water supply. So since I've been on the board, I've been impressed by how we strive for efficiency and we strive for being able to maintain our water system while also balancing the need to increase our rates. It's a juggle for sure. And at this past board meeting in June, we adopted our budget and we adopted rates. And partly because of representing this area and our, Ward 2 has larger lot sizes and hotter weather, and we use more water. But also because I think that we need to have a better vision for how to schedule our water rate increases. I, in clear conscience, was not able to vote yes on that rate increase. And one other fellow board member joined me in voting no on the rate increase. But of course, the rest of the board voted yes. And it's one of those really difficult, challenging things to have to vote on because you know that you need these changes. You know that you need these improvements. You know that it's expensive. But what I'm hoping for is that we have a clearer vision of where we're going as a water system and what it's going to take to get there and how fast we want to get there so that we measure and we temper down on our rate increases to make it more affordable in the long run. So speaking of affordability, we have something called the Customer Assistance Program. So for customers that have a hard time affording their water bill, we are able to provide assistance up to half of the water service and flow charges on their bills. And we're very proud that, again, we were one of the first, if not the first water agency to establish such a program, and we continue to grow it. So with that, I think I'll pause and I'll see if you guys have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Luz. Let's open it up for council member clarifying questions. Any questions on the presentation? Go ahead, Councilmember Rubio.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you for that exhaustive and very thorough and educational, frankly, presentation. That was very, very helpful. And we learned, I guarantee I definitely walked away with a lot of new knowledge. So I appreciate it. So one of the things, you guys are obviously working very hard to reach some very ambitious goals in a time that, that where there's a lot of financial constraints, not only for the state, but federally. How is East Bay MUD doing in terms of its securing its funding, both from the state and the federal level, if any?
Excellent question. We are fortunate that we do not rely heavily on federal funds for our operations. Most of our operations are financed with rates and debt financing. So we issue bonds. And so there are a few small grants that we are waiting to hear on for some of the work that's happening upcountry that would have been federal dollars. But for the most part, we're fortunate in that we kind of pay as we go because we get rates, we get rate dollars every month. So, but yeah, that's a good question.
And you mentioned that recently, well, I'm assuming because only 2 of you voted down the rate increase with 7 directors on the board, it passed. What were the consequences, the parameters around that if it had not passed?
If it had not passed, I don't think the board has ever faced that. If a majority of the board had indeed voted no, I think it would just mean going back to the drawing board and having to delay some capital projects, having to potentially not hire the staff that we need in order to accomplish our goals of replacing pipeline as aggressively as we want to be able to replace it. So it definitely would have meant, it also would have been maybe tweaking it to slowing down the pace of capital improvements. And maybe the rate could have been a little less than what it turned out to be. I think we certainly will see rate increases. I think it's unavoidable, just cost of living, inflation, labor costs. But it just seems like we cannot keep expecting our customers to on an ongoing basis, continue to pay this much. So if anything, is like, I want to signal to our entire system that, look, we just need to be really good stewards of every dollar, and we need to be thinking about what's sustainable in the long term for our agency.
And what was the deficit that you were facing, and what is the revenues that you're expecting to generate with the rate increase that passed?
We are not facing any deficits. The revenues that expect to be raised, that's an actual really good question that I may have to get back to you on the actual dollar amount.
Okay.
But it's to be able to keep up with our ambitious infrastructure and capital improvement projects that are very expensive. So just to cover our costs, we can only charge as much as we spend. There's a Proposition 218 that makes it so that our rates can only they're governed by our cost of service. We cannot charge more than what it costs to provide the service. Yeah.
Yes. And I do recall that. And it's interesting because most people don't realize that, that it's literally what it costs to provide the service. That's
Exactly.
So, and I know that those capital improvement projects, I mean, having served on the water district myself, and I was part of DERWA too, it's a great partnership and one that truly helps both water districts. It's extremely expensive, perhaps some of the most expensive undertakings that we take in any of our jurisdictions. So my last question is a sort of, as you know, like you, I'm very passionate about public health and the environmental initiatives. And you mentioned, having the fire prevention initiatives and carbon neutrality by 2030. How far along are you on those initiatives?
Oh, we are actually meeting our targets. So there's a declining, I don't have that chart in front of me, but we do have a declining line of greenhouse gas emission reductions, and we have met our target for 2024. And so we see the declining path that we need to continue to follow into 2030. And what I mentioned about the low-hanging fruit versus how difficult it's going to get, there's a chance that we may have to purchase some carbon credits to make us carbon neutral by 2030, because there are some things that are unavoidable in our inventory of greenhouse gases.
And a question that we just get, last question, I'm sorry. This is, like I said, very good presentation. Perhaps this is a side effect of that. A lot of people worry that as we have to meet housing demands, et cetera. And obviously, we're focusing on developing in the downtown core, which is actually going to, be higher density, which of course is obviously better in terms of water conservation and supply. Some are concerned, do we have enough water to provide for the growth that is before us?
Excellent question. Something that folks may not realize is that since 1970, our consumption of water has actually declined while our supply has remained fairly constant. So we have managed to conserve water and become so much more efficient that we're able to meet the growth that the Bay Area has had, that the East Bay has had since 1970. So now we're looking at, yes, we can accommodate urban core growth. The average apartment, for example, it's going to use so much less water than your average suburban home. And so we do plan for that, and with continued improvements in technology and all of this, and as you saw, we're expected to save an additional 70 million gallons per day by 2050. So yeah, it's going to take all of us, right? And we're all going to have to become really creative with how do we grow and still have water and still conserve even more. But I think in the East Bay, our customers have really responded whenever we've asked to please decrease your water use. And in fact, after each drought, folks don't go back to where they used to be in terms of consumption. They continue their habits of drought years. I know for me, I continued to capture my cold water from my shower, for toilet use or whatever. So it's something once you're used to conserving water, you're just kind of continuing to conserve. So yeah, good questions.
Thank you, Director Gomez. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
Okay. Councilmember Reina.
Sorry, Vice Mayor, did you have?
I'll be the last.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a great presentation. I have a lot of questions, but for a lot of the citizens that live around here, being a resident of Castro Valley for so many years, the water was, pristine growing up. So it was, very delicious. But at the same time, we talk about infrastructure. A lot of homes are, especially in this district here, are aging as well. Are there any programs that EdMUD provides for checking on water leaks in homes, et cetera? Can residents tap into that?
Absolutely. We have a whole slew of rebates that are available to customers, from transitioning lawns to drought tolerant landscapes to identifying leaks. We have staff that are able to go out to homes to try to pinpoint if there are leaks. So absolutely, we have a very robust program of both rebates and assistance from our team to help customers.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, yeah. And I knew of that. I wanted the public to hear that as well, because I saw my water bill reduced dramatically when I changed just some of the landscaping. So we all need to do our part. The other question I have is related to the watershed. I've toured this country, and there's issues with water popping up, and just from desalination issues and not just climate issues, but actual people that purposely damage the water supply. I know where McCollum River is, and that reservoir where the water is impounded. Who's protecting that water? Are there eyes on that watershed? Is there vigilance to protect the water? I know there's the climate effect and pollution, but
Absolutely. We also have a very robust system to keep track of our water supplies and to make sure that it's safe and that it's not being compromised by people or others. And it would be quite difficult to truly damage our water supply upcountry. But it's something that we obviously are mindful of, that it has happened in some places and that we want to make sure it doesn't happen here. So yeah, we have a robust plan for that.
okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
of
Director.
course.
Okay. Councilmember Adler.
Yeah, has been said, you've done a great job, and we can feel the passion in what you say. When you talked about the new pipe that they're using, what longer period of time do we get with that better material, that better metal? I mean, how long is it going to expand over the old one?
Don't quote me on this, but if I could channel my general manager who, I attended the Water Academy, is well over 100 years is what we are hoping that this pipe would be able to last. And many of our previous pipes, they lasted 100, but now they're failing. So we're really hoping that we're getting a lot of bang for the buck. And I didn't mention this, but we collaborate with UC Berkeley on a Center for Smart Infrastructure, and we have been testing this pipe. What will it take to bend it and break it? And we have this giant facility where engineers get to play with giant machines to try to break it, And it's really quite resilient. And the joints actually move. I got to see this. And so if there's an earthquake, we hopefully will be able to be more resilient because of the type of pipe that we're putting in the ground now. So, yeah.
And that reflects where we live with the earthquakes.
Yes, absolutely. We have one pipeline that traverses the Hayward Fault, you guys. And so now we have sensors on that pipeline, and it can tell us how fast the earth is moving, and it's 5 millimeters per year. So at some point, we may have to release the pressure so that to save the pipe. But anyway, that's some of the exciting stuff.
Make
that
proactive
yeah.
action. What about you were talking about 2050, I believe, that we've got to be ready for that period as far as needing more water. And you were talking about underground water, or the ability to store water underground, and which is different than a reservoir. I mean, is that, do you know anything about how effective that is? I mean, do we feel like if we do those steps, we'll be in good shape by 2050?
I do believe so. It's definitely part of our portfolio. It's because we're thinking, big picture and long term.
Mhm.
It's one of the tools in the toolbox, if you will. And that's why we did that pilot study in the San Joaquin Valley where we actually tested this, where we went ahead and saved some water underground 1 year and we were able to use it the following year. So it's something that's like a proven concept. Now we just have to figure out a way to scale it up as needed and as funds become available for that.
And the last question, you were talking about the algae bloom. Is that just a taste issue or is it more serious than that in other ways?
It's primarily a taste and odor issue. But again, with the new filtration capabilities, the ozone and the flocculation that we're hoping to install, that we plan to install in Walnut Creek, then that will take care of that. But just be patient because that project is not supposed to start until 2029. So that's part of we need to face these things in. And if there's a big drought between now and then and algae blooms happen, we may indeed taste our water a little different, but it's still totally safe because everything else meets or exceeds federal standards and state standards for water quality.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Vice Mayor Burrows.
Thank you, Director Gomez, for great presentation. Thanks for all your services for our community. Appreciate your work. I live in DSRSD region, so I'm a little bit envious about your quality of water provided by East Bay Mud. So thanks to my fellow council members for great questions. I switch a little bit onto the technology side, my question. So as you mentioned, there are some sensors you're using in order to protect the pipeline as well as for during the earthquake. So what are the other technology initiatives that you are working on in order to improve the overall quality of service as well as so that we can also in future protect our resources? Is there any new technology initiatives that's
Yeah, I think what comes to mind is indeed this collaboration with the UC Berkeley Center for Smart Infrastructure. We beyond the sensors that I mentioned on that one pipeline, there's another type of sensor that we hope to deploy using fiber optics that would be able to detect when there's a leak on a particular pipeline and where it is. We're also partnering with them some pretty advanced technology and AI type of modeling that would allow us to predict where that next pipeline break is going to happen fairly accurately and to be able to fix it ahead of time. And we also have robots that can go inside of a pipeline and walk in and show us what's going on inside. It looks like a dog. So there's a lot of technology that we're adopting and deploying.
awesome? Speaking of on technology, one of the biggest concern right now we have around the nation, right? So the biggest concern is about ransomware attacks that can happen, right? So cyber attacks that can stop a lot of these utility services across the nation. So just what kind of precautionary measures you are taking?
Yeah, our IT department is really forward thinking in that regard. And we have adopted state-of-the-art cybersecurity protocols to protect all of our infrastructure, everything that's done remotely, the fishbowl that I showed you. It's all highly, highly secure. Every staff member also is required to go through cybersecurity training that, sometimes it's usually through a staff member that some attackers are able to get to a server, for example, right? So every staff member and every board member has to go through special training to learn to detect when that might be happening.
Thank you for making sure it is safe so we don't get into that, because a lot of other public organizations are getting attacked at this point. Now, this is not a question, more like information, but if you have answer, you can answer, but otherwise we can take it for the next one. So next time, in August 2021, East Bay Mud's filed a lawsuit against Tassajara Park Development, mentioning that there is no capacity for providing the water.
Against
So,
which development? I'm sorry.
Tassajara
Oh,
Park
Tassajara
Development.
Parks, Yeah.
So I was wondering if the water consumption is, as you mentioned, it is reducing and we have enough water. How come that lawsuit came up? I
Yeah.
just want to know. It's not like I'm
In
supporting or not
the
supporting.
the short answer is that we have a boundary, a map that is our ultimate growth boundary or service boundary for East Bay Mud. And that project is outside of that boundary. And the board of directors has voted to not allow any significant development outside of the boundary. So it's something that we'll continue to have a conversation about, for sure.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Follow up to that question, because
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
actually was going to hold off, but since you asked it, because I did ask DSRSD that question as well, like who owns that property? Who has jurisdiction over that area? Because it came up at LAFCO, and I couldn't get an answer at the time. And so they did tell me that East Bay Mud had said this was outside your boundaries. And I did ask DSRSD when they were here if they had an idea about who has oversight of Tassajara there, the development. They said it's a county.
It's in the unincorporated county area. However, it has been now incorporated. It's inside the urban growth line, the urban limit line. So the county's urban limit line includes that parcel, but it's outside of our limit line.
Got it. So it's the county then.
Yeah, but it is in the unincorporated county.
Great. It's good to have consensus on that finally.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all. And it was, oh yeah, Mark.
Well, and we're going to take some public comment here in a second, but first of all, thank you for your presentation, very good presentation. We always look forward to this every year. And I think we all agree who are in the East Bay Mud, service area that it's great water. The water quality is fantastic. It's the best water of any place I've ever lived. So really happy to be a customer. I just want to go back to one thing you were talking about. You said something about hydrogen fuel production and servicing the Port of Oakland. Can you remind me what was that all about?
Yeah.
Why are we doing
that? Because it's something I'm a little bit less familiar with, but it is something that we are embarking on. That is part of our work to reach our carbon neutrality goal. And pardon me, where are you? Climate action footprint. Oh shoot, I'm not coming up with it really quick. But in a nutshell, we are leasing a property at the Port of Oakland to the Port of Oakland. So it's our property, and the Port of Oakland is going to deploy a hydrogen fueling station there. That will be the largest, that will allow for the largest electric hydrogen fuel truck fleet to operate, the largest one in America to operate, because it'll be able to be refueled at that station. That's my understanding.
But what's East Bay Mud's role in that again?
So as far as, and again, this is a little bit outside of my expertise, but I believe that it's our property that we're leasing, and we are part of the, there may be some additional pieces of the puzzle that I'm not too familiar with, but I can get back to you with those details. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I mean, I'm asking because to me and to most people I talk to, the big things that are important to us are water quality, obviously, the water supply, and for me, with my background, kind of emergency response, availability of water for emergencies and things like that. And you did mention something about availability of some of our local storage facilities for helicopters and things like that. Just my experience is that those aren't always available because the helicopters aren't flying because of the winds and because of the smoke and things like that. So we got to think, what's the worst thing that can happen? East Bay Hills fire, we think back on that. We just recently saw what happened in San Antonio, 26-foot rise in 45 minutes on a river. You got to kind of imagine the unimaginable. And do we have sufficient water storage tanks available and infrastructure to be able to handle, a big disaster. So that's always on my mind. So, and then when you go back to, you mentioned in terms of you can't charge more than what it costs to provide the service, right? And so this all kind of goes into setting the rates and that sort of thing. So when I think about times that I've been in organizations, to include here in the city, where we've had, some financial challenges and things, one of the things you got to go back and look at is mission creep. Are you doing the basic services that you need to do? What's your purpose? For me, again, your purpose is water quality, water supply, and, emergency response. Those are kind of the big three to me. But some of these things I get concerned about, because that's anything above and beyond those kinds of basics, and having, it was good to see all the investment towards funding towards the infrastructure and capital improvements. I think that's going in the right direction. But when you start getting some of these other things, I worry that that's going to get passed on to ratepayers. I mean, and
Yeah, and
it may be even things like, is it East Bay Mud's role to do fisheries? I don't know. Somebody else I know does that. Is it your role to do wildfire prevention? I know somebody else does that. I know it's good to do all that stuff, and I know the carbon neutrality rule, goals and things like that. That's all laudable out there, but all that stuff starts to add up, and then it's going to get passed on to ratepayers.
So that's a really good question, Mayor Armstrong. The one thing that I have learned about East Bay Mud since I've been on board is that we are extremely careful with what we say yes to. And unless there's a way for us to also benefit our ratepayers from that partnership, we are not eager to jump into anything that is not going to come right back to benefit all of our ratepayers. I mean, ultimately, this is our system, right? We own it together, and we want to be as good stewards of that system as we possibly can. So yeah, I mean, every time that there's a chance that we could, like, for example, our rate assistance program, that is not paid for by ratepayers. We've gotten creative with identifying additional funds by renting our facilities for like towers, cell towers. And that income from that cell tower, from renting our property, goes to fund our customer assistance program. So we're constantly getting creative to figure out ways to both help our customers if we can, and make a little extra money in any way that we can deploy towards something like that.
Yeah, because, I appreciate that. I know, from a council's perspective, we sit up here and we think we know what our residents want, but, we don't always know everything of what our residents want, but we think we do. And we try to stay engaged and understand their wants and needs. And I assume that East Bay Mud has some ability to do that too. And that's what I'm saying what I was really going to ask was, have you gone out to the customers and asked them, what do you want from East Bay Mud? Surveyed them and say, do you want us doing all these other things? And are you willing to pay for it?
That's a good question. In fact, we just finished a customer survey for this year. It was deployed in May, and we just got the results. And it's about a 12-minute survey, and we got 1,200 responses. And this is from throughout our service area, right? And in fact, I'm hoping to get results just for Ward 2, because I'm curious about what do folks in Ward 2 think. The types of questions that are asked are quite broad, from like, does it cost too much, to what would you like to see? So it's good question, because we just did that.
Yeah, because I think it would be good to see that survey, and then compare that to, what do the directors think is important for East Bay Mud and the strategic future, versus what do the customers think? And sometimes, on the board, you obviously have to maybe think beyond what the average customer might, you got to look a little bit deeper into the future maybe than what they're going to look into. So I appreciate the responsibility of the board to look deep, but it's also important to know what the ratepayers want to.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Couldn't agree more.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So thank you, Director Gomez. We're gonna, well, we don't have to open this up for public comment because we've already had that during item 4. So we just thank you for your time. Thank you for all that East
Mayor.
Bay Mud does.
Excuse me, Mayor, we do need to have public comment.
We do.
Yes.
Oh, this isn't item 6, is it? That's right. It's 9.1. So we do have to have public comment.
No
Sorry.
worries.
Thank you. I got my numbers mixed up. All right. Let's open up public comment.
So we have one speaker card from Sharad Kathrani.
All right. Very good.
Mainly a few questions for you. I had been in the previous presentation of Dublin San Ramon Water District as well, and I am a customer of East Bay Mud. So the quality of water is amazing and great presentation. The few things that I realized in that presentation and this presentation was missing. The point of PFOS in our water system, that's not at all acknowledged. And there's a groundwater facility that you said is coming up. And there is no mention of where it would be and what would be the impact on the community. Other thing is like when you mentioned about the risk of fire and those, the groundwater facility becomes a huge backup for us. So where is it and what is the risk of PFOS over there? And would it be secured as such? One more.
I'll leave it
point-
to your discretion. Or are you finished?
Yes,
Sharad?
can answer. One more last thing was in last Dublin San Ramon presentation, there was a member from the city staff was there from the team of the water board. Here you answered a lot of questions, which, but I think somebody from that board, from the like staff would be there, it would be very helpful. Thank you. Oh, he can answer most of the questions.
But I couldn't handle.
All right, Director Gomez,
It's real quick. I can.
if you want to
Oh,
address those, you're free to. I know PFAS was something we talked about at the ward briefing.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
But we are fortunate that in our watershed and in all of the tests that we have done, the amount of PFAS is negligible and not something that we are going to have to address at all. It's really, really low or almost non-detected. So that's really fortunate. That's not the case for most water systems in the country. And regarding groundwater, the location where we're considering or did the pilot test was in the northern Central Valley, in a location where that groundwater has also not tested positive for PFAS. So if we had to like pull up that groundwater, we're not anticipating that it would have any as either. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any other public comment?
That's it.
Okay, then I will close public comment. Again, thank you, Director Gomez, for your presentation, and we will move on to the next item.
Okay, our next item is item number 9.2, which is a resolution number 2025-084, authorizing execution of the fiscal year 2025-26 salary schedule as provided for the unrepresentative miscellaneous employees salary and benefits resolution, unrepresentative executive employees salary and benefit agreement, memorandum of understanding with the Service Employees International Union Local 1021, and memorandum of understanding with the San Ramon Police Officers Association. And this is a presentation by Megan O'Donoghue, who is our Human Resource Division Manager.
All right. Good evening, Megan.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. I'm going to try and get my presentation up. I should know how to do this by now, but I can't ever figure it out.
Joan to the rescue.
I didn't do you any favors with that title. Well, Thank you so much. Okay, sorry about that. So as Joan read my very long title, I have a presentation for you this evening on the fiscal year 2025-2026 salary schedule. For the purposes of changes to the salary schedule, we look at the employees in three groups. That's our unrepresented and executive employee group, employees represented by SEIU Local 1021, and employees represented by the San Ramon Police Officers Association, or the POA. So we'll start with our unrepresented and executive employee group. We have two documents that provide for salary range changes for these groups. One is the unrepresented miscellaneous employee salary and benefits resolution. That most recent version of that resolution was approved by council in July of 2022. And then, as you may recall, more recently in November of 2024, council approved our unrepresented executive employee salary and benefits agreement. Both of those documents provide for increases to relevant salary ranges effective July 1, 2025, based on the change in CPI from April 2024 to April 2025 for our region. For that period, the change was 1.3%. So salary ranges for all job classifications in those groups have been increased by 1.3% with an effective date of July 1, 2025. There are three notable exceptions, which are the ranges for police lieutenant, police captain, and police chief. We'll get into the details on that in a moment. But that's kind of the important information to know about this group. Those changes, of course, do impact the salary ranges for department director and assistant city manager. They also received a 1.3% increase to their range. However, because of the way that San Ramon handles individual salary adjustments, there will not be any immediate change to salary, take-home salaries for any of the employees in those positions. And that is because individual salary changes typically are related to the individual employee's annual performance evaluation. So just because the range moves doesn't mean that their take-home salary is moving. Right. Employees represented by SEIU Local 1021. We currently have a memorandum of understanding with this group. The term of that agreement is from July of 2022 through June 30 of 2026, next year. In that MOU, the city agreed to an increase for salary ranges for represented positions effective July 1, 2025, based on a total compensation salary survey to bring those salary ranges to the 75th percentile of the survey. For that survey, we use the salary range for maintenance technician 2 as a benchmark. We conducted that salary and actually learned that the current salary range was 2.9% above the 75th percentile. So with a result like that, the ranges simply will not be changing this year. And then our final group, our employees. Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you just go back once?
Yes.
I'm just looking at the cities that were in the comparator cities
Sure.
there. All right, why don't you go ahead and read that out for the.
Sure. So that's a great question. The cities that we include as comparator agencies, and this is for SEIU, but applies to most of the salary surveys we do in other years, includes Brentwood, Campbell, Concord, Cupertino, Livermore, Milpitas, Mountain View, Pleasanton, San Leandro, Union City, and Walnut Creek.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the POA, our most recent MOU, that has a term of July 1 of 2024 through June 30 of 2027. As you may recall, they transitioned away from kind of a salary range model to a salary step model, which also paved the way for us to have the most straightforward increase, which is just this flat 2% increase to the salary steps for those employees. And slightly different, their increase will go into effect the first full pay period following July 1, which will be starting on July 14th of 2025. So circling back to police lieutenant, police captain, and police chief in fall of 2024, council approved 2 different amendments to our unrepresented salary and benefits resolution, which created set differentials between the maximum compensation for police sergeant to police lieutenant to police captain, and police captain to police chief. In case you're curious, those differentials are just that police lieutenant will be set at 5% above police sergeant's maximum compensation. Police captain will be 7.5% above police lieutenant, and then police chief will be 10% above police captain. Those differentials were set in the fall. So with the 2% increase to the POA, those ranges will just also be adjusted by 2%. However, like the department directors and our assistant city manager, the salaries for police captain and police chief are determined on an individual basis by their annual performance evaluation. So this change in the range will not have an immediate impact on their individual salaries. And then finally, the current contract with the city manager does call for a 5.5% differential between the city manager's salary and the top of the highest paid salary range for department director, which includes police chief. So with the 2% adjustment to the police chief salary range, the city manager's salary will also need to be adjusted by 2%, which in that case, it will have an immediate 2% increase to that salary, the take-home salary. And that's my full presentation for you all. It's fairly straightforward. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay, all right, let's open up for clarifying questions from council. We'll do it again the same way. Councilmember Hussaini.
Thank you, Megan. I thank you for the presentation. The timeline is interesting because I want to sort of, the public has a viewpoint of, well, we're coming off of difficulty balancing the budget, and we did, and then we just passed Measure N. I would like for you to touch on the timing of this because some of the dates, I'm obviously I came on new, so a lot of these came in before I was voted on, but it would be good to just have a quick refresher of the dates and the timelines because I believe that there's going to be some people that are going to scratch their heads and say, and because this was not done. This was not just presented to us today. This was done.
That's correct.
Months before. If you could just touch on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So for both of our bargaining unit groups are both of our unions, for SEIU and the POA, the salary range increases are something that is negotiated and then agreed upon between the city and those union groups when we're at the table with them. So if I consult my notes for SEIU, this specific salary range increase would have been negotiated and discussed in likely the spring of 2022, and then brought to council. And so when that MOU went into effect, July 1, 2022, this specific salary range increase was already agreed upon. So I guess that's 3 years ago. For the POA, it's a little bit more recent, but it's the same thing. That MOU went into effect July 1 of 2024, which means we were at the table bargaining with them in the spring of 2024. So both of those increases were already agreed upon and are kind of we're in a contractual agreement with those labor groups. For the unrepresented groups, the most recent unrepresented resolution was approved by council also with a beginning we don't have terms for that. It's not a negotiated document, but that document was most recently updated in July of 2022 as well. And that listed out salary range increases for, July 2023, July 2024, 2025. I don't believe it has range increases for 2026 and beyond. That's something that will have to be kind of brought forth to the council. The executive agreement was something brought to council in the fall, but because the executive agreement, it's kind of doing something where we have department directors that are governed by the UNREP resolution, and then we have newer department directors governed by the executive agreement. So we can't really split a salary range between people in one job classification. So the executive agreement really took what was in the NREP resolution for now and is similar. So I suppose you could say for most of these increases, they were agreed upon in 2022, and the ones that were more recent were in 2024.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You have anything to add, Assistant City Manager? Okay, all right. Over to Councilmember Adler.
Well, I think you've explained it pretty well, and I've read the material. Once you have a contract, I mean, just for kind of public consumption, if financial situations change, it really doesn't change the contract itself. So you can't argue that, we've suddenly had a deficit issue that we didn't have before, because the contract will override a change in circumstances, I'm assuming, right?
Generally, yes, I would qualify this with saying that we would consult with a labor attorney on this. There is something called impact bargaining, that in an extreme situation, we could go back to a labor group and say, we realize we don't have any money, so we have to talk to you about how we're going to reconcile that with our contract. But that's a pretty rare event, and something that we would be talking to people with a little more knowledge than me on the subject.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
All right. Councilmember Rubio, please.
Thank you, Megan, for a great presentation. I just wanted for clarity, the city manager, their last salary increase, how long ago was that for the current city manager? Because obviously you had a change as well.
Yes, and each city manager does have their own individual contract. I believe the last adjustment was in November of 2024, because that's when there was the last adjustment to that police chief salary range. But in terms, I would have to go look and see when the most recent amendment to that contract was made. It is publicly available on the city's website. If anyone's interested, it's on the Human Resources page. I just don't know the date off the top of my head.
Right. Because I think there was a moment where he did take sort of a pay freeze, right?
I don't recall. I don't know if.
Or is that incorrect? Okay, so that's incorrect. Scratch that.
I'm not sure. I just don't know. That might be
don't know.
correct. I'm not sure. Yeah, we can look.
Okay. I just want to make sure. But anyway, thank you. I know a lot of this was over a series of discussions and negotiations that went on, and like Councilmember Schwein, many of these happened well before I was here as well. But thank you for all your due diligence and making this presentation today. Thank you.
Right, Vice Mayor Rose.
I don't have questions, but I'll do a couple of comments afterward.
Okay, all right, we'll do that after public comment. I see that there's like 7 job classifications for the represented SEIU 1021 folks. About how many of our employees is that for the maintenance?
That belong in the. Oh, that's a great question. I believe it's somewhere in the 60-ish range, but that's something I could get you the exact number.
Okay,
and get
not
that
just
to you.
just kind of ballpark figure.
Yeah.
And then this salary or the survey that's done with the comparator agencies, is this something that's done every year, or is this just happens to be a survey year and that's the results of the survey year?
Traditionally at San Ramon, my understanding is that frequently the pattern has been that one year is a survey year, the next year is a CPI or a COLA adjustment year, and kind of alternates back and forth. That's been the pattern. We do that for the unrepresented group as well. For example, last year, in July of 2024, our unrepresented group was a survey year. SEIU was a CPI year. And so for our unrepresented group, the increases were kind of all over the board. Some people didn't get an increase. It just kind of varied. Of course, for SEIU and moving forward, that's something that they could come to the table and want to negotiate something else. But the historical pattern has been survey year, COLA year, survey year, COLA year.
Okay, all right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Of course.
All right, if there's no other clarifying questions, then I will open up public comment. Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, and I will close public comment and we'll go around for any final comments. I know Vice Mayor has some. Any other final comments from other council members?
Nothing from me, man.
Vice Mayor.
Thanks, Megan, for presenting. Just to make sure whoever is listening, the physical analysis, there is no budgetary impact, as all items covered in resolution are included in financial year 25-26 operating budget. So I just want to make sure everyone who want to are listening to this, that's one important point. And the second thing is, it's very important that we need to keep up to speed with the 75 percentile. One of the reason, and also with the CPI, one of the reason is to retain quality staff that we have. And there is a lot of competition going on between different civic bodies. So in order to make sure we retain the best quality, because as the saying goes that whenever you have less competitive compensation packages, you always lose the best quality people. So that's where the challenge is always. So we are very cognizant about our budget, our compensation, and also we make sure that the surveys are done. So just want to share that thought on this item. So once again, thank you very much for presentation.
Okay.
And with this, I can move the motion for approving the resolution.
I will second that.
Okay. Do we need to read the entire title, or is it good with just move for the resolution?
You can just move for the resolution without reading the title.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Okay. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Megan. Appreciate it. All right. Looks like it is that time of the evening for item 10, city manager and city council members' comments and matters initiated. Over to our assistant city manager, Scott Cole.
Good evening, council. So just a few updates for this evening. Obviously, we're in the throes of summer. You all know, I imagine your updates will cover a lot of what's happening. It is a busy time in the city. But a few significant items I think worth calling out, drawing people's attention to, things we have mentioned, and a plug, shameless plug for our newsletter. For those watching at home, please do sign up. We are actively engaging more and more on the items that are coming, so this would not be a surprise if you're already registered for that newsletter. But the first is our overcross opening. The Iron Horse Trail Bridge overcrossing is coming up. It's on our marquee. It's all over the place if you're out there and looking, but the official opening of the Iron Horse Trail bicycle and pedestrian overcrossing will take place on Saturday, July 19th. The event will begin at 9 a.m. in the City Hall Rotunda, with remarks from elected officials and partner agencies, followed by a ribbon cutting at the north entrance of the bridge starting at 10 a.m. All portions of the event are free, and the public is, of course, encouraged to attend. The event will include a group photo opportunity on the bridge, along with commemorative giveaways to celebrate the official opening, which, of course, we are incredibly excited about. Our Trails survey, we've been talking a lot about that survey. Our team over in Parks and Community Services, we recognize them this evening. They are, of course, in the throes of summer and actively soliciting feedback on the Trails Master Plan. The City of San Ramon is, of course, developing that Trail Master Plan. The community is invited to share their input in a short survey, which is available at sanramon.ca.gov/SR Trails. That's sanramon.ca.gov/SR Trails. Last but certainly not least, our friends in community development are again hosting their Community Planning Academy. Applications are now open for the fall session for that Community Planning Academy. This is a free 4-week class. It is a remarkable itinerary, a lot to cover. The curriculum is fantastic. 4-week class that takes place on Monday evenings between September 8th, beginning on September 8th, and will provide an overview of why cities plan, how the planning shapes our community, and the land use planning process, which of course is alive and well in this community. So you'll learn in real time what's happening. So it's an exciting opportunity. Learn more and apply by August 1st on the city's website. And that is all of my comments for tonight.
All right, very good. At this point, we'll go to council member comments, and we'll try to keep these as brief as possible. If I know a lot of people have attended the same events as others, but try to abbreviate your comments, and we're going to stay true to our sequence tonight. So we'll go down with Councilmember Duane.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll be brief, and I wanted to thank the city parks and staff for a wonderful 4th of July event. First time I've attended a concert at the amphitheater. It was very pleasant, very welcoming, made everybody feel come together, and the acoustics was fantastic. So thank you to the park services, and thank you to the staff for organizing it. My last comment is I want to give my thanks to the citizens of San Ramon for their vigilance and their comments and their commitment to the city. I know sometimes we sit back and we don't take your comments seriously. We actually do. I know we all take it to heart. I bring this up because it's camp season, and I want to give my heart and my thoughts and prayers out to the families in Kerr County and Camp Mystic that lost those kids. It's a tragedy. I have daughters myself who attend summer camps, and it was really it was devastating for me because they're the same age, and it was very, very saddening, and makes me realize what a good community we live in. So thank you to the citizens for being vigilant and staying vigilant, and I hope those families find peace. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Adler.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that after the last city council meeting, we also made decisions for the Parks and Community Services openings, and we appointed Will Dorlish, Kyle Levy, Partha Mitra, and Vasant Shetty were appointed for terms to expire June 2029. We also have a couple of alternates, Robert Bickle and Carol Lopez Lucy. The next day, we also selected 2 city planning commissioners. We appointed Gary Albert and Santosh Kajola were appointed, and that term also would be expired June 2029. And we didn't fill the 3rd vacancy, but we advised staff to reopen and reschedule. So we'll be interviewing for the last open seat there. On the 27th, Friday, I know the mayor was there, a number of us were there at the San Ramon Historic Foundation, which was held at Forest Home Farms. This is a great event, and there were a number of past mayors there. And, we just really got into the history of our great city, and how, the farming community that it was early on. And we learned about the history of tractors and, the important roles also of women in agriculture. We listened to a number of volunteers, Dan Foster, interesting stories behind the creation of Forest Home Farms Historic Park Tractor Museum. And we also heard from Cindy Albert and Kathy Leduc, highlighted the contributions of women in agriculture, especially during World War I and World War II. And then we also heard from Jeff Charzuk and Pat Sorensen, talked about evolution of tractors and companies behind them. On Monday, also, I've got another committee assignment. I met with Julia Oslin and Sandy Silva at Bishop Ranch. We talked about the historic foundation and what we're doing with that. And I think just one other thing. Also, there was a meeting for Central Sanitation District, and there's a discussion going on with the feasibility of possibly combining Central Sanitation with the Mountain View district, which is up north. It's not the one on the peninsula. It's the district that's north, Contra Costa County. And they're going to participate. Both districts agreed to participate in the study and to see what sort of potential opportunities and challenges related to consolidation. So that's going to be an ongoing affair. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Rubio.
Thank you. So it's pretty short. This last 2 weeks, I attended on Tuesday, July 1st, the County Connection Operations and Scheduling meeting, where we discussed operational improvements and challenges in transit services. Some key highlights included better monitoring and transfers, adjustments to school bus schedules, the importance of finalizing school bell times by May every year, which is really, really tricky because not everybody has that prepared on time at the same time, but we're working on trying to get some the schools to kind of work in coordination so that it's a little easier for the schedules to be adjusted every year. We also talked about the success of the Youth Ride Free program, which there was about 7,500 rides in June alone, which was up from about 1,400 approximately last year. So that was a huge increase. And the goal is now there is some funding that has come through that will allow us to continue to provide that program through the start of the year without experiencing a gap. So that was a big plus because we were concerned about potentially confusing riders if there was a pause in service. And then we also reviewed the implementation of a new software system to enhance cost and performance tracking. And let's see. So, yeah, I mean, also there's continuing increase in paratransit demand. There was a 25% increase since fiscal year 2022. And so obviously this is also calling for necessitating more efficiency improvements to maintain sustainability. So they're reviewing sort of what the different roles are of dispatch versus, other members within the facility and what they do to make sure that everybody is being as efficient as possible in their capacity. And then along with all of my fellow council members for the most part, on July 4th, I attended the Run San Ramon in the morning and with Vice Mayor Veros and Mayor Armstrong. And it was, as usual, I usually run with the community on those days. I've been doing this for a while, so I really love doing this. It's an opportunity to just be part with the community. And I had the good fortune of having Vice Mayor Veros award me the second place medal for the 10K race in my age group. So it was not easy. So I'm not going to lie. It was a little bit, I was pushing it there. And we had many inspiring people. I'm just going to mention there was one lady who was 89 years old and did the 5K, and I'm just amazed. I really think these events are so important, and thank you to the Parks and Community Services for doing this because it's really important to keeping morale. And we talk about quality of life, as was mentioned earlier. That's a big part of it. So we're taking care of each other and keeping our spirits up at the same time. And then I went to the concert along with all of my fellow council members here in attendance. And it was the first concert of the summer with Billy Joel concert by Billy Nation. It was really good group. A lot of people were out there dancing. Next one, just for the public's information, you can find this online, the summer series, concert series. Next one will be on July 13th. They have a group called Mustache Harbor at 5:30 p.m. Yacht Rock. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much. All right, Vice Mayor Veros.
Pretty much most of the events are covered by my fellow council members on Parks Community Services Commission interviews, Planning Commission interviews, and 4th of July events. Congratulations to Council Member Rubio for second place in our category. And only one additional one which didn't cover for me is I attended one community fundraising for a temple in our Doughty Valley High School. So that's the one which I attended on June 29th. Yeah, it was a great kickoff. Thanks to staff for all the work and also Parks and Community Services Department for kicking off our summer series concert. Thanks.
Yeah, I also want to pass on my thanks to really all the city staff who participated and or helped out during the Run San Ramon, as well as the concert that evening. You know, it takes everybody to do this. It's the park staff, it's Public Works, it's police. Everybody's out there pulling their share, and it was a great series of events. I'll add on. I had one meeting just yesterday. It was the Southwest Area Transportation Board of Directors meeting. I sit on that. We also talked about the Youth Ride Free program, the County Connection program. So, and just if I add on a little bit more to that, this is you know, it's County Connection buses, but if you're under the age of 18, you can ride for free. You don't even have to have any ID. You don't have to have a pass. You don't have to pay anything. You just hop on and you go, and they'll count you up and everything else. But what they're trying to do is look at a program to reduce the barriers to kind of people riding transit. And as Councilmember Rubio said, the statistics are amazing for kind of year over year change from what was going on last year. Some amazing ridership numbers have increase in ridership. So take a chance. We got some youth in the audience right now. To take the opportunity to go ride County Connection and check it out. It does a lot of good things. That, you know, young people can move around freely. You can go to places like libraries and parks, or go over to City Center, go to summer jobs and things like that. Not just here in San Ramon, but anywhere in the County Connection service area. You can go all over the place. And it's, you know, it's another good thing to kind of help reduce social isolation and things like that. So get out there, ride the bus, see what it's all about, and check it out. And I think you'll be pleasantly pleased. And with that,
Can I mention one more thing?
yeah, okay, go ahead.
I didn't write it down, and I thought I would just remember it. But the 4th of July was amazing. I did the Danville parade with my Rotary Club, but I came back for the festivities that we did in Central Park, and it was really an honor to watch the Honor Guard, our police, San Jose PD Honor Guard, took the flag right onto the stage area. We did, you know, we just said the Pledge of Allegiance. We also did a challenge coin, and I liked the idea of, you know, we had a band that played the different service themes of the different services, Anchors Away and so on. And then we were able to see veterans we asked the veterans in the audience to stand up, and we gave them challenge coins. So I don't know if we've ever done that before, but that was fun. And then after that, we got into the Billy Joel tribute band. But it was really, really special. It was a beautiful day. Everybody was there, and I felt good about what we did that on 4th of July for our citizens. So thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you for adding that on. All right. Any other final comments?
Just make sure that you guys ride the bus before you turn 18.
That's right.
So, ride it for free. I can't get on.
And
obviously.
that program is only currently really only for the June and July. They are looking to extend it, and it's some areas I think it will be extended, but we're kind of looking at if that'll apply to all areas within the County Connection service area.
Yes, they did secure some funding that will help create some continuity. I'm not sure, I didn't hear any specification about certain areas or others, but be on the lookout for it, stay on top of it, tell your friends about it, especially since we have youth here. Tell your friends. It's a really, you know, as somebody at your age who I think I was taking public transportation in 5th grade for the first time, commuting 45 minutes to and from school. So it's a great habit to get into, because at the end of the day, it really is much more convenient. You don't have to deal with so many things, and it really gives you a freedom that you wouldn't have otherwise. So use it, because we don't want to lose it. No, I didn't run. 45 minutes was too long.
All right. Thank you. Well, that's it for this evening, everyone. We appreciate your attendance, and thank you for all the comments of council members and staff. And